My name is Officer James Sabota, and it's a pleasure to serve as your citywide PIP coordinator. Welcome to the citywide New Year's Eve, meeting. We want to thank everybody for coming to this meeting and starting off a very good year. As a courtesy, can you please silence your cell phones? The PIP program goal is to work together as stakeholders from all communities to reduce crime in this great city. We have a very informative and important presentation tonight, and our agenda is really tight. Our presentation may go a little bit longer. We're going to have some really great information. The guest speakers are asking, if you do have a question for them, please get with them after the meeting, because I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions. We would like to thank everybody attending tonight. And we would also like to thank all of the folks out in the community that's attending. They couldn't make it. Sometimes they have family to pick up, children, they have animals at home. And we also have a lot of our PIP members that work in this great city, but they live in the county. So we'd like to welcome everybody that's live streaming. It seems like the last couple of meetings we had 100 signed on for the live streaming, but we'd like to welcome them also. As the PIP division is growing, we'd like to thank our deaf and hard of hearing group here that's really growing. They're very active in our department. I would like to introduce another group, and we have they just joined the PIP, and we work hand in hand with them. They are called the Center for Success and Independence, which is a residential facilities for adolescents in Northwest Houston. They serve 12 to 17-year-olds who have substance abuse, mental health, mental behavior. We'd like to introduce to the staff members. I know the one staff member, she couldn't make it, Jessica Ruiz, a wonderful lady. She's a stakeholder in that division. And we also have somebody very special here today. He's truly a hero. A lot of you will probably remember him. He was a hero on the football field. He was a Houston Oiler back in the late 70s. Robert Wood, would you like to stand up? He also works with that group, and they are a fantastic group. We had a meeting last week, and they're just a great group. Thank you for everything you do, and thank you for attending the meeting. We have some really good resource tables. We have the mayor's office with people with disabilities. We have Pride Houston, HPD Victim Services, the Harris County Tax Division. We have a new group that's joining us today. It's AAMA, A-A-M-A, which stands for Association for the Advancement of Mexican Americans, an organization focused on empowering Latinos to achieve success through programs, education, workforce readiness, and leadership development. We'd like to welcome them and thank you for coming. We also have a Harris County Precinct 4 engagement, or DA's office is here, and we also have the Houston Health Department. Again, we want to thank you all. I'd like to turn the mic over to our citywide PIP board member, Connie Savage.
Okay, if you want to call me Joan Jr., that's fine. It won't hurt my feelings. Thank you. Okay, good evening, and thank you for coming to everyone. Happy New Year, and welcome to the Chiefs Citywide PIP meeting. This special featured Citywide PIP meeting is also live streamed for community members who cannot attend this evening. Joan is not here tonight, but she is watching via live stream, so she is with us. Okay, at these citywide PIP meetings, the goal is to work together as stakeholders from the community to reduce crime and provide the attending members proactive, informative information in which you can benefit and share with your communities. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to my favorite sergeant, Sergeant Vincent Johnson, for the invocation.
Thank you, Connie. Connie's been behind the scenes working for a lot of years. So it's good to see you step out of your comfort zone tonight. Hello, everyone. I'm Chaplain Vincent Johnson, and I serve as the chaplain of the Houston Police Department. But I'm also a pastor, but I didn't come here to preach, but I do want to tell you that it's a new year, 2025, and I think it is the year that each and every one of us should strive. Whatever it is you want from God, this year, He releases it to you. Don't give up, don't give in, and don't give out. Hang in there. This year is for you. Why don't you tell the person next to you, this is your year. This is your year. And I mean that wholeheartedly. Now, would you please pray with me? Our Father and our God, we thank you for this moment together. We thank you for the relationship and the collaboration that we have in the city of Houston, the police department and its citizens, and the other resources that are here today. We ask that you bless this meal that we are receiving. Let it be nourishment for our bodies. And we ask that you bless each and every one of us with safe travels when we leave this particular location. We thank you for your grace and we thank you for your mercy. It is in your precious name we pray and give thanks. Let everyone say amen. Amen. God bless.
Here we go. Sorry. Our success has been expressed by the following statement. We are a dedicated group of citizens and business owners working together with a dedicated chief and command staff interacting together to reduce crime. We would like to thank you all for your participation to gain the growth and the recognition from other cities and police departments. We will have the department's Crime Analysis Division provide a citywide crime analysis report. This evening, the division manager, Jim Mallard, will provide us with the report. Mr. Mallard, you have the floor.
Thank you, Connie.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Good evening, everyone. Hey, Joan, if you're out there watching, hope you feel better. We miss you. I want to give you an update. So these are some preliminary numbers wrapping up 2024. Kind of take a look where we're at. We did see some slight increases in our violent crime numbers. A couple things I want to point out. We had significant decrease in murder, which is always a great thing. We're showing double-digit increases in human trafficking. I mentioned this at the last PIP meeting. It looked like we were kind of heading in that direction, so I wanted to mention that tonight. That's really a reflection of increased reporting and the proactive efforts of our Vice Unit with Captain Zia. He's going to get into that a little bit more in tonight's presentation. So I did want to point that out. We also see really, really significant decreases in our property crimes, auto theft, and burglary from motor vehicle. We had some issues last year with the Hyundais and Kias being stolen. Those companies implemented new technology, reduced those thefts pretty significantly. We also had some legislative and ordinance changes with catalytic converters, greatly reduced the number of catalytic converter-related thefts that we saw. And so we see those numbers. Sometimes that stuff takes a while for it to come through in the stats, but we've been diligent, we've worked at it hard and for a long time, and so now we're seeing that with the decreases in nonviolent crime. So overall, we are showing a decrease overall of 4% going into 2025, and we hope to continue decreasing those numbers and working hard on the violent crime. It's been a very big focus of ours throughout 2024, and will continue in 2025. As always, you can visit our website at houstontx.gov/police. Take a look at our crime stats and transparency sections. A lot of good information in there, a lot of reports, a lot of data that we have available. We also have our community crime map, communitycrimemap.com. Go in there and plug in the City of Houston. You can put in alerts, put in your address, and be notified about crimes that are going on in your area. And you can also report information about crimes that you observe. So with that, I'll go ahead and turn it back over to Connie.
Yes.
All right, there we go. Thank you so much.
Next, we would like to introduce our Chief of Police, J. Noe Diaz. Chief, you have the floor.
Good evening. Thank you, everybody. Again, this is probably the highlight of my day, coming out here and visiting with everybody. I want to thank the people that put it together. Thank you for always bringing your very best. I want to thank the command staff, all the staff that's here to help us go through these events. Thanks for the stats, amazing stats. Thank you for all our people that are here, helping with from their victim services. Councilman Ramirez, I want to thank him for always getting involved with the police department, staying on top of things. I want to thank Commissioner Briones for her partnership as well. Hello back there. So anyway, it's been a great year for us. We've had a lot of growth. On behalf of the good mayor who couldn't be here tonight, I'd like to share that we're nearly 400 in his first year. Almost 400 cadets have gone through the academy, so that's been fantastic numbers for us. And we got a class graduating on Thursday. Those are included. And we had a stack of kids in the recruiting office this morning, so we're tackling it. Again, I've said in the past, reaching that $6,000 or 6,000 officer goal should have happened 10 years ago. So we're working on it. We're still hovering at about 5,300. We'll probably 5,400 after this next group comes in. So, and we're kicking them out. Our team's doing a great job training these people, and things are moving in the right direction for our team. There's a lot of growth coming into the office, a lot of new sergeants, captains, a lot of things that's happened. So it's a daily exercise in trying to manage all the expectations. I know the community is vast. The community is doing a great job, and we're not here but for the community. I've said that before. So the community's been very, very good to the police department, and we appreciate them letting us be part of the tapestry of the community, right? Because our cities are so diverse. Our city is so different, and depends on where you live, it's different. So we appreciate the ability to come and serve as a group of people. Tonight's is going to be fantastic. It's kind of a Vice, so it's kind of cool. It's not Miami Vice, similar to Vice, but I want to address the numbers that these short-staffed. They do a fantastic job hitting the club. There's the sex trafficking, the human trafficking. It's real. It's happening in our community. But our very efficient team does a wonderful job. And because of them, the spikes is because we're making more arrests, right? So we need to keep pressing, keep pushing. We're working on adding a couple of staff members to his team to make sure that we can continue to tackle that appropriately. But without further ado, you guys came to see the captain here, so please come up here and visit with them, and I'll be available for questions at the end here. Go ahead.
Okay, the special informative presentation this evening will be presented by the HPD Vice Division's Human Trafficking Unit, led by Captain Salam Zia and Sergeant Tony Gracia. Gentlemen, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Chief, I hope you heard what Chief Diaz said. I should be expecting some extra manpower here soon, so I'm going to hold you to it. Welcome. Happy New Year. I'm, again, Salam Zia, and I have the honor and privilege of leading the Vice Division, which houses the Human Trafficking Unit, and the city's efforts in combating human trafficking. I've been on the department for a little over 22 years, but only less than 2 years of it has been on Vice. So I'm learning a lot, but by no means am I an expert. But the good thing is that I'm surrounded by a dedicated group of talented, compassionate, and hardworking individuals that have spent most of their professional lives working in the trenches, fighting the good fight, and leading our efforts to recover victims and pursue traffickers. In fact, not long ago, my human trafficking unit updated me. They're out there working an op right now, and they're trying to recover a 15-year-old. So hopefully they'll be able to recover her, and we'll have some good news tonight. One of the people that I mentioned that really helps us in our fight and has the boots on the ground is Sergeant Tony Gracia. Tony, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, good evening, everybody. My name is Tony Gracia. I'm sergeant with the Human Trafficking Vice Division, Human Trafficking Unit, sorry about that. Human Trafficking Unit, and I've been on 33 years, but I've been 12 years, I'm going on my 12 years in the Vice Division, which has been a great career, okay? But the topic of discussion today is going to be human trafficking awareness. You gotta remember, this month is National Human Trafficking Awareness Month, started in 2010 by President Barack Obama in the proclamation. So every year until 2024, every year is Human Trafficking Awareness Month.
So is there a brave soul in the audience that can tell us what they think human trafficking is? No one?
The crowd, so what is your version of human trafficking, sir?
I would say moving a person against their will.
Good answer. Okay, you so, sir. Human trafficking. What is human trafficking? You don't know, but you're here to learn. Okay, well, we're gonna go ahead and move on. What is human trafficking? Modern day slavery. That's what basically it is. Modern day slavery. Okay. Exploiting a person through forced fraud or coercion, sex trafficking, forced labor, domestic servitude. Happening everywhere, even here in the United States. People seem to think sometimes it's going to be international, but it's going to be in our own backyard. Okay. I was doing research the other day, do the Polaris Project. 85 to 90% is going to be in our own backyard. It's going to be domestic. Impacting people from all walks of life, regardless of nationality, age, socioeconomic status. Any person under 18 years of age is going to be a human trafficking victim. You know, regardless of what they're doing. Commercialized sex, they're a human trafficking victim.
So to kind of summarize it, human trafficking can be best described. Next to mass murder, there's no other crime that violates or exploits the human rights of individuals at this scale. So human trafficking is almost a $200 billion business. That's exactly what it is. It's a business, and it happens internationally and both domestic. So back in 2000, President Clinton enacted a law called the Trafficking Victims Protection Act. That law established the first federal statute for human trafficking. With that, the AMP model was created. And what this model basically does is help define what human trafficking is. So it breaks it down into three parts. Action means purpose. If you have all these three components, it equates to human trafficking. So basically, if you have a trafficker that commits any one of those acts through force, fraud, or coercion for the purposes of commercial sex and labor or services or labor trafficking, that equates to human trafficking. Okay? The only exception or caveat is if it's a person that's 17 years or younger. In that case, you only need action or purpose to equate to human trafficking. So what does that mean? Well, if you're a sex buyer and you try to make a sex purchase of a person that's 17 or younger, and you pay for her Uber to meet you at your location, you've just engaged in sex trafficking, right? If you're a sex buyer, and well, no, if you're a person who induces or recruits somebody to engage in prostitution, and you partake by taking something of value, it could be a share of the profits, you've engaged in sex trafficking.
Sometimes people confuse the two, trafficking versus smuggling. And here we're trying to define it. Crimes against a person, smuggling, crimes against the country, based on exploitation, based on transportation, no border crossing required, requires a border crossing, involuntary, voluntary, improves ongoing exploitation, ends with migrants' arrival at the destination. But can smuggling turn into trafficking? Yes, it can. We've had situations before. We had to respond to Herman Hospital one time to recover an individual who was an undocumented immigrant, but she was at the location. She reported she escaped from her trafficker and ended up, learning that, she needed assistance. So we had our human trafficking investigators, handle the scene. But while not the same, two are sometimes not, they're very different to distinguish. So when you watch the TV and say we have a human trafficking situation and they got a van load of undocumented immigrants, that's, depending on the investigation, it's going to be a smuggling scene. And also our division does stash house investigations. Once in a while we're called to scenes to go out there and help, identify a potential trafficking situation at the house. Have to do a thorough investigation and working with our partners with Homeland Security investigations. Then we determine if it's a smuggling investigation versus a human trafficking investigation. Human trafficking visualized. Most two are going to be debt bondage and sex slavery. Imagine, one of our cases we worked a long time ago, an individual from China had told the prosecutor, defense attorney, that she paid $65,000 to come to the United States on false paper, flew to Mexico City, stayed there for 2 weeks, got a knock on the door, given paperwork, flew to the Intercontinental Airport, was picked up by a stranger, and then drove into a location in Southwest Houston and told, hey, you're at this location to further notice. And then later, luckily, in the next few weeks, she ran into some of our officers through a tip we got from a citizen regarding potential trafficking going on at the location. We conducted an investigation, we engaged them, and we recovered her. Like Commander Z was saying, $3.6 billion a year. National Organization for Women, I was doing research the other day, it's over $200 billion now. And it's second behind, even not surpassing narcotics. 80% of the victims are going to be women and girls, 12 to 14 years of age. The youngest victim we ever recovered in our division is 4 years old. Believe it or not, 4 years old. And luckily, one of our detectives was the first person to engage the suspect online to where he was the first person on the list. That suspect who was involved with that was actually the person's father, and he had 7 people lined up behind the detective. Put that in perspective. 4 years old, being sold by her dad. Okay, 42% of recruiters are women. Moving on to this one right here, trafficking in North America. 700 people come to the United States to engage in commercial sex. 2,000 per year come to the United States from other countries to the United States to engage in commercial sex. 50,000, that's going to be from all over the world coming to the United States from the north to engage in, commercial sex. That's not including from South America, but this is just to give you a gauge of what's going on north of us. 313 victims of trafficking in the state of Texas. This number is a very popular number. It's always given. It's always given by other agencies regarding, victims were discovered during a survey by the University of Texas. They were actually investigating, it was sexual assault and domestic violence, but they came across this number. 234,000 workers are victims of labor trafficking. Approximately 79,000 minors and youth are victims of sex trafficking in Texas. That's where they base this 313,000 victims of trafficking. Traffickers exploit approximately $600 million from victims of labor trafficking. Why do you think that? Because they don't know they're being trafficked. Exactly. Yep. Minor and youth sex trafficking costs in the state of Texas approximately $6.6 billion a year. Could be for officer overtime to investigate trafficking situations. It could be for medical costs. It could be for insurance. It could be for therapy for the victims. It adds up.
So according to the National Human Trafficking Hotline, Texas is second to California in terms of cases reported. But the disclaimer is that human trafficking cases is a very underreported crime, so the numbers are probably a lot higher than that.
This is from the National Human Trafficking Hotline, the Polaris Project. Actually, we got our staff analysts do the top 20 states in the United States, which we are number 2, with 900 reported by state, next to 1128 to California. Trafficking in Houston. Department of Justice declared Houston one of the most intense trafficking jurisdictions in the country. I hate being called the hub for human trafficking. Okay, but you know what? Comes with, hey, we have the most experience in fighting human trafficking. We have one of the best task forces, I believe, in the country, and we have great investigators and supervisors that man it. Proximity to the border, major national airports, seaport, and interstate roadways. I-10 East Freeway is a big culprit. Up and down, east to west, these traffickers travel all over the country. Diverse labor sector, large immigrant population. This is a big one. Popular destination of runaways. During the past, from March 1st until as of the end of last year, we recovered, we had recover 90 victims of trafficking, at least 60 of those have been minors with clear concerns of trafficking.
The only thing I'll say over here is that it's widely considered that Houston is the hub, but there's really no research that can back that up. I would say that, we could be considered a hub, but to say that we're the hub, I'm not sure where that exactly comes from.
I contacted National Human Trafficking Hotline and I wanted it by state, by region, and they came up with this. But when you look at Houston, yeah, we lead at 235, but that's counting Fort Bend County, Galveston, Harris, Liberty, and Montgomery County. But Dallas is behind us. Okay, there goes some myth about human trafficking. Let's go over some myth. It's always or usually a violent crime. No, it's not. It is a violent crime. It's about manipulation. All trafficking involves commercial sex. That's a myth. Only undocumented foreign nationals trafficking in the U.S. No. Only women and girls can be victims, survivors of sex trafficking. Men and transgender can be victims of trafficking. Human trafficking involves moving, traveling, or transporting a person across state or national lines. It can happen anywhere.
All commercial sex is human trafficking. That's not true. There are people that engage in commercial sex and might not be human trafficking. An adult with an adult sex buyer, with nobody inducing, transporting, or providing any benefit. People being trafficked are physically unable to leave their situations, locked in, held against their will. Does that happen? Absolutely. But a lot of times, trafficking is done through the emotional and psychological manipulation of the victims. And so while the victim may be free to leave, they don't tend to do so because the trafficker has them basically in control, right? Labor trafficking is only a primary problem in developing countries. That's a misnomer. It happens here, right here in the United States. Traffickers target victims they don't know. Again, a lot of research tells us that traffickers usually know their victims, or they have some kind of acquaintance or familiarity with them.
Let me go back to that labor trafficking only or primarily a problem in developing country. It could be legitimate business or illegitimate business. Where trafficking is involved. Who are the victims? Victims can be anybody, mother, brother, sister, anybody, it doesn't matter.
The point here is that there's no one size fits all. A victim could look like you. It doesn't matter what you look like, what you believe in, where you live, how you live, what you ascribe to. Anybody could be a victim. So we need to get the idea of a picture perfect person that maybe is perpetrated in Hollywood about what a victim looks like. That's not what our folks see out in the street. Same thing with the trafficker. It's not the boogeyman in the white van that's running around scooping little girls up. Does that happen? Sure, it could. But it's usually somebody that the person knows, right?
Where can you find human trafficking victims? You can find them about anywhere. Labor trafficking, you can find them in hotels, motels. You can find them in the nanny services, door magazines, day laborers, nannies. Let me tell you a story about magazines. One time we had to recover a group of individuals from West Virginia in North Houston because somebody called the National Human Trafficking Hotline regarding, hey, that the person that was in the van got beat up because they didn't meet their quota. So somebody contacted the National Human Trafficking Hotline. So we got with our patrol officers, one of them in Houston, and we ended up recovering them at Taco Bell. And sure enough, we recovered the victim, got the trafficker, and we called the human trafficking unit. They took over the scene, but that person was beaten, and the people in that van, they were in a white van, believe it or not, and everybody was under the age of 25, and everybody just wanted to live and go to the big city, right? They just wanted their first job, but all of them were from Tennessee, West Virginia, Kentucky, and all of them, majority of them didn't finish high school. So they were they were out there just trying to get a job, right? Somebody taking advantage of them, and this person's getting beaten because they didn't make their quota. Kind of made me, after that incident, that when you have people come sell you magazines at my door, ask them what they need. They need water. I even gave a couple of my card a couple of days ago. So I do, take this stuff seriously. Here's some red flags. Sex trafficking, you got your branding and tattoos, unexplained injuries, sexually provocative clothing, inappropriate for weather or situation, claim an older boyfriend or girlfriend, unable to make decisions without approval, hotel keys, rolls of cash, multiple phones, refillable gift cards. Isn't there a problem when you got a 16-year-old relative that's dating a 23-year-old? That's sort of like a red flag. Tattoos. She's a minor. She had a tattoo on her chest, right here. We recovered a minor before having her big old tattoo on her chest, and she was involved with trafficking, and it recovered her. Labor trafficking. Works excessively long, usual hours. Kind of remember like spas. They're open like 24 hours. Some of them. Living where they work. Same thing. Going back to spas again. Transported to and from work by their employer. Identification documents held by the third party. Not allowed, but able to speak for themselves, fearful of authorities. A lot of the stuff on labor trafficking can intermix with sex trafficking, and that'll be big red flags. Okay, who wants to take a guess on which ones are the traffickers? Good answer. All of them. The first one is aspiring rapper, kidnapped a minor, prostituted her, gang member, was out there prostituting 2 minors at a club. The cheerleader, believe it or not, she's out there, senior cheerleader. She has sophomore cheerleaders actually showing them how she makes all this, gets all the expensive clothing, actually taught them how to put their ads online and taking them to and from locations. The mother, prostituting all 3 of her daughters. Yeah, and actually, I did actually recover, we did an investigation in downtown Houston, one of the hotels, and we ended up recovering 15-year-old, and actually what she said, Mom said I was a prettier one. That's why I'm out doing this. So we end up arresting the mother. The individual right here, out there prostituting minors at the club. This gentleman right here, him and his son, large organization meeting victims. He was in court. A lot of times traffickers, it's a family operation. What about the military guy? Yeah. Military guy, yeah, he picked up a minor, ended up taking her back to the apartment. Him and his friend got her on drugs, got her high, ended up sexually assaulting her, and then taking her to a nearby game room where they made her dance, and then they prostituted her out of the game room.
So how does the path of a trafficker and victim intersect? The answer is that it can happen a multitude of ways. There's no timetable. That bond could be made instantly. It could take months, maybe even years. So there's no cookie cutter answer. But there are some common themes that tend to run in some of these cases, especially now in today's environment with cyberspace and cell phones and iPads. What we find is that a lot of the meetups tend to happen on the cyberspace, right? Online, social media, you name it. There's probably 24 apps that are good today that may not be good tomorrow. They tend to change. And we talked about how a lot of the recruiters or the traffickers, usually there's an acquaintance, a familiarity with the person that they're trying to target. But the common thing that usually runs through most of the traffickers is that they target a vulnerable population. So in one of the earlier slides, we talked about how Houston is a popular place for runaways. Well, homeless youth, juvenile runaways is one of the victim profiles that we find that are usually trafficked, not just here, but across the nation. If people that are substance addicted, migrants, people with language barriers, people that are mentally unstable or may have a mental illness, those with criminal records, all of these are vulnerabilities that people have that may marginalize them, and the traffickers, being the manipulative people that they are, will find these and exploit them, right? And how do they do it? I mean, they make false promises. They use physical, emotional, sexual, economic abuse. They use physical threat or the intimidation of, and they also isolate them, right? So there's a typical pattern that traffickers go through. It's similar to what you may have seen when people talk about pedophiles. It's kind of what we call a grooming process. They target the victim, right? The next thing they try to do is try to establish trust with the victim, try to establish rapport. At the same time, they're trying to analyze, like, what are the victim's needs? Like, what are they needing in their life, right? If they're a runaway, maybe their family life is unstable, so they need a father figure in their life. I mean, these guys are looking for angles to try to gain trust and implant themselves as a support system, right? And they start to isolate the individual from that person's support system. So they try to make the person believe that they're the ones that the victim needs to rely on in order to succeed, right? And then that's at some point afterwards, when they've established some separation between the support structure and the victim, they start to use these different methods of exploitation, right? And that's where the inducement of getting into commercial sex or labor trafficking tends to happen. And then they have to maintain their control over the victim, and they use some of the same exploitative methods that they actually manipulated the victim. They use the same ones to maintain control of them. Tony?
And social media is going to be the big thing. That brings us to this. You might want to take out your camera now, take a picture. It's going to be the top 12 apps parents should know about. Your Instagram, your TikTok, Snapchat, X, and Facebook. I know Facebook is like a big culprit of people direct messaging. Actually, before that, how many people ever check their child's social media? In the back, at 1 or 2. There should be a lot more hands up there. Okay, I can be teaching, I taught in the academy, your mandatory in-service, and I could have 150 officers up there in the class, ask the same question. You'll have the same 1 or 2 people. It should be, you should check your kids' social media, because the trafficker will sit there and monitor though, and they'll know the culture of what's going on, and they'll be able to sit there and approach them where they're being exploited. This calculator, if your child has 2 calculator signs on their phone, that should be a big red flag. I've actually listened to a radio show on the way to work one day, and they were bragging about this because it kind of acts like Snapchat. But this right here has a code to get in there, and it actually functions like a calculator. But still, you can hide photos, videos, and files, but you have to have a code to get into that project to actually utilize it. But still, they were bragging about it, how people are using that nowadays to hide different pictures and stuff.
The one thing that's probably not on here that's probably worth mentioning is game consoles. How many have kids over here?
I mean, kids play Fortnite. Fortnite's a big one, or Roblox. Roblox is another one, and a lot of people, we haven't come across a case like that yet, but I know in ICAC, I'm pretty sure they've been approached before.
Yeah, Minecraft. A lot of them have chatting features on there. So one thing that you may want to be aware of is look at the controls, the parental controls over the chatting, and so disabling that could kind of help mitigate some of that.
There's different types of traffickers. Boyfriend pimp, guerrilla pimp, gang pimp. Boyfriend pimp, psychological control, manipulation, sells a dream the youth believes the pimp is her boyfriend. Guerrilla pimp, severe violence, forced drug use as primary control. Usually kidnaps the victim, they're all doped up. One time we recovered a victim who was from LA, forgot where she was at in Las Vegas, because that's where she got most of her drugs at. Went to Tucson, and then woke up over here off of Dunleavy Street, was taught her opportunity, escaped, and then flagged down a West Side Patrol unit, so we ended up making that scene, and believe it or not, we took her to her safe house up there in North Harris County, but she got recruited by a guerrilla pimp who beat her, and then she had the opportunity to escape, and she escaped. Gang pimp, why do you think gang members are more involved with trafficking now? High profit, low risk, all right? But lately, they're getting hammered on the penalties lately. A lot of them get some good time on that, though. But you can always keep on reselling a person, but narcotics-wise, once you use it, it's done.
Social behavior of a trafficker. So if you kind of read through these, a lot of what you'll see is ways that the trafficker tries to isolate the victim, right? And then how they try to maintain control of them. So restricting the potential victim's contact with friends and family, right? That's how they separate the support structure. Holding a large group in one place with poor conditions, limited space. What does that kind of sound like? human trafficking, human smuggling, right? More like human smuggling. A lot of our stash house operations or cases, we tend to find that a lot.
Constantly watching or accompanying the victim. For instance, going to the emergency room with the victim, and then sometimes we've gotten phone calls before. Hey, we're at Herman Hospital. We got an individual that's not letting us talk to the actual patient and stuff like that. We think she's being trafficked. The first thing I'm going to ask is, hey, you have an officer working an extra job at that location, because get him to that location, or we get on the phone, contact dispatcher, send them our unit out there, because it's possible potential victim that's going to need some help, because the person's actually sitting there in the room listening to everything what's going on, and you know what? That's a good opportunity to separate them. Posting harmful content online, that's the thing we call sextortion or some type of blackmail. That's why they get them into the life. On this story right here, actually, I interviewed this girl. It was a call out at 2 or 3 in the morning in the west side of town. I'm visiting it at Plainfield. This is the girl at the bottom. She's going to be a second in charge. She's the one that enforces the rules of the girls at the location. She got into a fight with a security guard because he was charging an extra $5 a person that was coming to the location, seeing her girls. So she found out about it. She confronted the guy. She wanted her money, and she didn't get in a fight. The West Side units ended up going out there, securing them, gonna put them in jail. But we got called out there, so we went out to the location and interviewed her. I got a good rapport with her. I was talking to her about her tattoos. That's what brought my attention. It said, Miss Jones, #1 lady, loyalty above all laws. And then as I started talking to her, that's where I found out how much a night that these girls make, because she says, hey, you know, usually girls from Monday through Thursday, it's gonna be $900 a night, and she can't come back to the hotel. But from Friday through Sunday, with the peak days, it's $1,500. Okay? And there's some traffickers, it's $1,500 regardless. And I've seen it out there to where, on surveillance, I've seen a girl out there on a cold, rainy night, out there at 7 o'clock in the evening, and then I'm coming to work at 7:30, 8 o'clock, she's still out there drenched. You know what? She didn't make her quota. She ain't going back to the room. Here's some more examples of branding. You know, anytime I see crowns, money bags, some type of diamonds, depending on the location, like a cantina, sometimes the girls will have multiple roses or going to be butterflies, and that's something that our investigators key in on, especially if they got girls at the location, they got matching tattoos, especially if you got crowns and, for instance, this is right on top, this individual right here, she was a bottom. Her and her crew are from Dallas, Texas. They're a bunch of them from the Blood Gang. This is one of her people that was with her, and we did an investigation there. We ended up we ended up arresting a girl at that location. But we're interviewing all the girls, but she was the bottom. She was very docile. She really not willing to talk. This girl right here, she was like automatic. She told us that's her pimp, but she was from San Diego. She was coming into town, make some money, fly back. This girl's right at Telephone Road.
Okay, so how do we attack human trafficking? So a couple important points. A crime that's as complicated as human trafficking, you can't attack it in one way. I've heard prosecutors describe human trafficking investigations being as, if not more, complicated than some murder cases, just because of the dynamics of how the cases go. So when you look at human trafficking, you got to look at it from multiple perspectives. So one way we look at it is, how can we educate the public and anybody that may think about getting involved in the trafficking industry so that trafficking doesn't occur. Another way we can look at it is, how do we impact the environment so that it creates disadvantages or disincentives for people to get involved in trafficking. And then, of course, the other part is enforcement, right? What do we do proactively, reactively in order to pursue traffickers? I'm sure you've heard the saying that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Well, the first step in prevention is education, right? And so we take that to heart, and we try to educate the public in many different ways. This is a perfect example of how we do community engagement. Sergeant Gracia goes around the city at civic club meetings, other patrol stations, pit meetings, giving speeches or briefings about human trafficking.
also go out there and train like social workers, emergency room nurses, as well as other law enforcement officers about human trafficking 101, as well as go back to talk about the environment. Did a pretty good deal out there at the Bissonnet Track. We're talking Bissonnet Track. You want to bring that up?
Yeah, so I'd want to give kudos to, everybody knows what the Bissonnet Track is, right? Okay, all right, just making sure. So Bissonnet Track is obviously in West Side's division, and a couple years ago, and we've done multiple, the department has done many iterations of campaigns to try to impact that area. One of the things that I think was done a little bit differently, and this is where I really want to give kudos to West Side Division, Commander Reese Hardy, I don't know if he's here, but he was there at the time along with his team, now Commander Donovan Lee, but back then Lieutenant Donovan Lee, was the TAC team, led the TAC team. And so one of the ideas they came out with was, well, what can we do to disrupt the traffic of sex buyers on Bissonnet? So if you had ever gone out to Bissonnet at that point in time, you could see the line of cars that would just make that roundabout around Plainfield, go onto the freeway and come back on Center. And it was nonstop. You couldn't get in. And everybody, of course, was using the indicators because you don't want to violate the traffic laws. Well, they came up with a great idea of putting up barriers. And lo and behold, I think it made a huge difference because I don't know if the sex buyers, it kind of threw them for a loop. They were like, what's going on over here? And so it really disrupted the activities. Now, of course, that wasn't the only thing done. There was a lot of other undercover work, working reactive investigations, proactive stings, a lot of directed uniformed police patrol in the area. There was a lot of other things that we're doing at that time to attack it from different ways. But certainly that one thing we thought had a huge effect, and it was an out-of-box idea. So that was a perfect example.
And it worked pretty well and stuff. It got so well that it displaced some of the traffic to Dallas, to Harry Hines. And we even got reports of some of the traffickers bring back Bissonnet, which is Bissonnet, because they wanted to come back here. It used to be over the years, I've been in the Vice Commission, you can put it wherever you want to buy sex, straight, they'll go up on the internet, they'll direct you to the Bissonnet Track.
And then I think the last point I want to emphasize is that you can't fight human trafficking alone. So, for example, there's no way Vice can do it by ourselves. We rely on our patrol partners to help with our prostitution stings, our undercover stings, provide police presence out in those corridors. We rely on our other investigative divisions. A lot of times, we'll get into this a little bit later, but a lot of times, sometimes the victims don't outright tell us that they're sex trafficking victims. The report may come in as my boyfriend assaulted me and I want to file a police report. And it's not until you start peeling back some of the layers that when the report falls into the hands of another division, the detectives find out that, well, no, there's a human trafficking nexus to it. So we work a lot with other investigative divisions to catch some of the cases that may not be coded correctly or may not have been reported properly to make sure that we're investigating those type of cases. And then the other thing is we rely on our other stakeholders. If you haven't heard of the Human Trafficking Rescue Alliance, it was a task force formed, I think in 2016 from a federal grant by the DOJ. It's comprised of more than 30 stakeholders. Harris County DA's office is with us, DPS, the FBI, HSI, and a whole host of other folks, including victim advocacy groups. And we leverage each
At least 60 to 70 advocate groups all around Houston and stuff, which are our biggest partners. And we're going to go over that in a section in a minute. But the Human Trafficking Rescue Alliance, the southern part of Texas, is made up of 33 law enforcement agencies. And our biggest partner is going to be the United States Attorney's Office, along with the Harris County DA's office, which makes up our team. And it's gotten so good to where our task force can just pick up a phone call and get some help anywhere in the country, actually.
Yes, the last point is that you can't fight it alone. You have to fight it as a team, and there has to be a unified front.
Here are some challenges. Just like Commander Zia was talking about earlier, it's a hidden nature of a crime. It's in plain sight, right? You know, victims may not believe that they're victims. In sex trafficking, traffickers believe the boyfriend or protector. Labor, they're not aware of their rights. Fear, isolation, dependence on trafficker. distrust the system. Long-term investigations, this is not a one-stop, arrest. Some of these investigations, we got one victim, turning one trafficker, and then 10 multiple traffickers. We've had one investigation that started off on social media, ended up being 21 victims recovered.
Yeah, and I think the other point that I think we want to drive home, and prosecutors can attest to this, is, in the past, you needed the victim to be there in order to fully prosecute the case. But now we've learned over time that, we really can't rely on the victim. And a lot of it is because of the facts that Tony just mentioned, distrusting the system. They also move around a lot. Our victims tend to be very transient. And so they have unstable housing, they don't have a regular job. So this, and the other point is that this actually re-traumatizes them. So to be able to prosecute the case, you need to be able to paint a picture with all the evidence, and in today's world, it's digital evidence, right? To convince a jury or judge that the trafficker is responsible for this trauma. And so you put all that together, these are very difficult cases, but my hats off goes to our detectives that spend long hours every day trying to put these cases together in the hands of our prosecutors so we can prosecute them. And I will say that once it actually goes to trial, we have very long sentences. So, in fact, the last trafficker got 40 years. And so if we can just get it to trial and get a conviction, they tend to get very long sentences.
Yeah, these are some of our partners. We can't do our job without them. Back when, human trafficking was on the scene almost 10 years ago, we never would have thought about working with civilians, okay? But you know what? We need them. They're our backbone of trying to be more trauma-informed, victim-centered. And like I said, our department has a victim service division, which they got a booth right over here. We have the human trafficking, the mayor's office. They have a human trafficking website. The Polaris Project is the National Human Trafficking Hotline, and all of our partners right here. HPD relies heavily on our partnership with various advocacy and victim service groups.
Yeah, we couldn't do it without them.
Eligibility to receive services, 18 years old, must prove force, fraud, or coercion, must ultimately be willing to assist in any reasonable request for law enforcement to participate with the investigation. Law enforcement or an immigration attorney must identify them as a victim, but a minor do not have to prove force, fraud, or coercion. If you don't remember anything else today, force, fraud, or coercion, okay? In the case of commercial sex exploitation, do not have to work with law enforcement. We just want to make sure they get services. Any victim gets services. Reporting, if it's an emergency, you need to get a unit out there, and somebody's in danger, you need to call 911. The non-emergency line HP dispatcher, 713-884-3131, will get a marked unit out to your location, and once the officer gets there, then they'll determine if it's a human trafficking situation, who, by the way, we have supervisors that are on call 24/7 to be able to sit there and help the patrol officer to where they can sit there and to make a decision to send detectives out to the location. HPD Vice Division, 713-308-8600, if you're just calling them regarding a tip. The National Human Trafficking Hotline, very important number, 1-888-373-7888. You can call that 24/7. It's toll free. It's confidential. You can call it confidential, anonymous, or want to be called back. Give them a number. We'll call you back. Live chat. Here's some resources for the Texas Attorney General's Office. The Blue Campaign with Department of Homeland Security, the Polaris Project, all these resources right here give you some information. If you don't have any other thing that you get from today, please take a picture of this.
And we want to thank everybody for being here. That's the end of our
Thank you for everybody's
presentation.
patience, and thank you for coming out tonight.
I'm sorry if it's hard hearing everyone. Once I lower it, sometimes it doesn't go high enough on the return. Okay, we have just a quick announcement from Stephanie Hetchen from the Mayor's Office for People with Disabilities.
Hello, thank you. Yes, I'm Stephanie Heckton with the City of Houston Mayor's Office for People with Disabilities. Just want to thank you guys for the incredible education. I'm quite overwhelmed by the presentation, and I can't imagine the work that y'all do every day. So really, thank you. Thanks for all the officers here. Really quick, we are in the final weeks of our partnership with the Houston Fire Department for our deaf and hard of hearing community. We have about 100 visual fire alarms left to provide to the community, and so if you have not received installation of your fire alarms, please stop by and check in with Ray. Ray, if you'll raise your hand. We are making sure that your application has all the correct information so we can get those installations done here in the next couple of weeks. Thank you.
On behalf of the citywide board, the divisional PIP officers, and the entire command staff, we would like to thank all of the PIP members who have been involved in their neighborhoods and the PIP program and our goal in crime prevention. Okay, it's that time. You're welcome to join me if you want, or I can say it and you can say it after me. Okay, the PIP motto: if you have the time, get involved. Perfect. If you don't have the time, make the time. It's your neighborhood and it's your city. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, how you been? Haven't seen you in North Side in a long time. How you been doing?